30 seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish. I'm joining with Drew, and we have a very special guest with us. His name is John Crumpler. John, he is a writer for the Texans Wire. John, why don't you introduce yourself to the people who don't know you yet?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. For those of you not familiar with me, my name is John Crumpler. I'm a writer over at the Texans Wire. And I do have the privilege of talking football with these guys a good bit.
Awesome. And so today we're going to be discussing who the Texans should draft at pick number 3. This has been something that has been discussed very extensively, but the draft is coming soon in the next coming days. And so, John, I just want to ask you, who is your dream pick at pick number 3? Do you think the Texans stay there? So what are your thoughts on that?
I'll drop a little factoid that I've been working on for an article this week. I think they'll stay there because I'm not sure who anyone is coming up to get. The closer we get to the draft, it feels like the quarterbacks are starting to appropriately settle on value. But in terms of who we would pick there, would you guys want to guess how many first-round linemen were on the top 5 teams from this past year? So the Bills, Tampa, the Rams, Bengals, and the Chiefs.
Like 4.
So 3 first-round linemen combined between the 5 teams. And any guess as to how many were taken in the top 10?
I'll say none of them.
None of them. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I am lower than most on Ekwonu and Neal at that pick because an offensive lineman does not make an elite offensive line. I think my dream pick would be either Kayvon Thibodeaux or Kyle Hamilton, if you ask me right now.
What do you think about like the narrative surrounding Kyle Hamilton? A lot of people have been a lot lower on him because positional value. Obviously, I think all of us agree that his versatility kind of debunks that. But what do you feel about like maybe like do you think it's still worth drafting Hamilton at 3 despite having per se a low 40 time? I know, but there's some clips I've seen like him actually running it, and he doesn't have good like proper running form. I don't know who his trainer is or whatever, but like he's like kind of swerving. And so, but like anyways, well, what do you think about like, do you think it's still worth to draft Hamilton at 3 despite whatever's surrounding him right now?
That's a complicated question. I think Kyle Hamilton, the player, is worth a top 5 pick. I'm not really concerned about his speed. That doesn't show up on the film. People who want to complain about that, you see these ridiculous plays that not even the Flash could make it. Like Hamilton in cover 1 being asked to run across the field. But that said, the draft it's an exercise in finding value. And if the league is down on Hamilton, which it would appear, you probably shouldn't take him at 3 because maybe you can get him at 13, or maybe you can trade up for a little and get him at 10. So I'd personally be comfortable with it, but I won't blame the Texans at all, nor do I expect them to actually pull the trigger on Hamilton at 3.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree there. The way the draft seemingly is kind of falling is, no trade ups for quarterbacks. They're falling in their spots, like you said. Players like Kayvon Thibodeaux are falling even a little bit for some odd reason. Kyle Hamilton is seemingly falling. Like you said, yeah, that 40 time, the video clip is pretty damning. He's just not really running it properly. I still kind of think that, he really is the best player in the draft, Kyle Hamilton. Positional value should not have an effect when you're drafting for the best player available, as I feel like most teams in the lower part of this draft need to start doing this, need to be drafting for the best player available because these are superstars. You do not need to be filling needs when you're that low in the draft, especially the Texans, who is a team that just need talent. I can understand I was drafting Kyle Hamilton at 3. I know a lot of people are going to complain just because of these so-called experts and what they've been saying about positional value and his 40 time and his play speed. But I think Kyle Hamilton brings it all. I don't think he's a box safety. I think he can play all around the field, every single position, and he play linebacker, slot, corner, safety. He's got elite range and ball skills, a pretty good tackler, good pursuit, stuff like that. So I'm sold on Kyle Hamilton. But I really don't think the Texans could even go wrong with many players at 3. It's just such a good spot to be in.
Yeah, I think Hamilton, just like I've like just watching a few of his clips, he's been able to cover like half of the field. And so like him, like judging him based on running in a straight line, I don't think that like should be a damning thing on him. So I think whatever, like that seems to be the only real knock other than like people just wary about taking a safety so high. But then again, like y'all both have mentioned, like he's not just your typical safety. So Kayvon Thibodeaux, he's had a lot of question marks about whether he really loves football or does he give up on plays? Those are some narratives that have been going around him. I know a lot of our fans in the comment section below have been against taking Thibodeaux. What would you say to those fans or those narratives?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the narratives is out there. The fans are taking all of that in, and you have to remember before all of this happened, we're talking, before the beginning of the college football season, Kayvon Thibodeaux was going to be the #1 overall pick. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson had a breakout year, and then we still got through the draft, process. The end of this NFL season, Kayvon Thibodeaux was still, 1-2, him and Aiden Hutchinson. Then all of a sudden, you have these, scouts saying, "Oh, he didn't interview well. He chose not to do this part of the workout. He has this brand that he wants to, get more exposure on Instagram and stuff like that." But that's, first of all, that is just something that a lot of players in general do, is that people tend to ignore that. People are allowed to have lives outside of football. Most football players have more than one thing that they genuinely care about. And just because football isn't the only sole thing that they focus on, that should not be an issue. And then like the work ethic thing is crazy. Saying that he has a bad motor is crazy because his film is just filled with him, bullying players, getting tackles on their butts and just blowing up plays, chasing down players, chasing down running backs 10, 15 yards down the field. And to say he has a bad motor, I don't know if it's to say that they don't watch film or is that they're just too focused on, one or two plays that they saw and they just want to have someone to hate on or just the negatives. Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to be a great player in this league. He's a very good run stopper. He's a very good pass rusher. You can refine that a little bit more. He's got elite bend and athleticism, and he's got great size, especially for the Texans who are going to be playing him at the 5 tech if they were to draft him.
Yeah, I think that our attitude around draft prospects, and I'm not going to use we're all on the younger side, you guys more so than me, but I think we're in a generation where we're not going to see prospects who are just all about football. I think people are acutely aware of the financial opportunities and frankly, like the celebrity opportunities given to them by being elite football players, and any smart guy is going to want to take advantage of that. I have no problem that Kayvon Thibodeaux wants to market himself because he's a good football player. It didn't show up on the field, and anyone who trained with him, worked with him, coached with him, they're not the people citing this. It's outside scouts who I think it's a little old-fashioned in today's generation. So I'm just not concerned. He has an elite prospect profile. He was an elite college producer, and he fits so well with Jonathan Grenard. I don't think they could go wrong with KT.
Yeah, definitely agree with y'all there. Like when you're picking that high in the draft, you want to be able to select someone who has a chance of being the best player taken in the draft, and that is possibly Kayvon Thibodeaux. Whether or not he like rises to that expectation or his potential is is to be decided. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeaux, very very controversial player right now. But definitely wouldn't be opposed to drafting him. And another player where a lot of like analysts that I kind of personally respect, like Daniel Jeremiah has been like mocking like guys like Trayvon Walker to the Texans, and he's very high on Walker. He's like had him above Thibodeaux. A lot of guys have like Thibodeaux as like their edge 3. They have it like Hutchinson, Walker, and then Thibodeaux. John, I just want to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think about Walker at 3? He comes from a very talented team, but again, it's just, does he have what it takes to become a full-fledged pass rusher in the NFL?
I mean, he's extremely talented. All of the physical potential is there. There's no doubt. And I don't think there's any reason that we can't speculate he could become elite at the next level. But in terms of him coming to Houston, I would answer it twofold. The first would be, I actually don't think Houston's going to have the opportunity to draft Trayvon Walker. We're looking at Vegas odds right now. He and Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan are monster favorites to go 1 and 2. Essentially, whoever doesn't go number 1, they have even odds to go number 2. Trent Baalke is kind of, I mean, to put it not nicely, he's a bad general manager. It's the reason Jacksonville struggled to hire their first candidate. And he's made some outside the box selections before it when it surprised me to see Jacksonville take him. And it looks like Detroit really likes him as well from everything coming out of there. So I'm personally hoping that he's not available for us. And that's because in terms of Houston, I think they need more of a sure thing. I would not want to risk it all on Trayvon Walker right now. I think when your football team is this bad, you have to take guys that you're relatively certain that it's going to work. And Walker is one of the biggest projections in the draft. And a lot of guys, for everyone who does put it together, there's 2 or 3 guys who don't figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, the Texans are in a rebuild. It's going to take them a while to win games. And Trayvon Walker is, he has that elite strength and speed, but I haven't really seen much out of him really as from pass rushing moves. I know that, he can play 3 different positions, the 5 tech, the 4 and the 3 tech. He's 6'5", 6'6", 275 pounds. So I can see why those guys love him. But just for reference here, the reason why I'm not super high on him is, for example, he's 14th overall on my board. Nakobe Dean is 13th on my board, and Jordan Davis is 10th on my board. Those are 3 Georgia defensive players. They're all going to go in the first round, and I believe that Trayvon Walker is only the 3rd best defensive player on that team. And that Georgia defense was stacked with NFL starters all over the field that you're going to see coming through in the next 2 to 3 years as well. They got great players. I saw Trayvon Walker use a lot of stunts. He's a great run defender though, but I don't think he has the bend to especially play the 5 tech in Houston. I agree with what you said about a sure thing. Obviously, some scouts do have question marks about Kayvon Thibodeaux. Some fans do have question about Kayvon Thibodeaux, but he's a pretty overall complete player. Also want to say that the Jadeveon Clowney comparison, in my opinion, I think that's Trayvon Walker. They have similar size. I wouldn't say that Clowney had elite bend either. I think that Kayvon Thibodeaux was much more of a sure thing as a pass rusher, but credit to Trayvon Walker. He is a great run defender. I would say he's probably one of the better or best run defenders in that edge class. He is definitely talented, but I just do not understand the number 1 hype. And like you said about Trent Baalke, it would not surprise me at all if the Jaguars took number 1. It's pretty much going to be him or Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think the Jaguars are going to go tackle. I think they got the 2 tackle spots lined up for at least this year, even though it does make sense to, protect Trevor Lawrence. Kind of hoping that Trayvon Walker gets taken because I just don't see the hype. I don't see his fit. And I just don't think it would make sense for the Texans to take Trayvon Walker.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the argument for why the Texans should draft him is that the Texans would have time to teach him these moves and all these things, and who better to teach him than Lovie Smith? But again, it's just so many question marks, and you can't really bank on that, especially when you're drafting that high. Maybe in the later rounds, obviously, because those are people who you have to those guys are going to be more projects than you want to draft more sure things and the top three picks. So. That's what I would say about Trayvon Walker. And another guy who I think has a really good chance of getting drafted by the Texans at pick number 3 is Ahmad Gardner. He's already had private talks with Lovie Smith, and he seems to fit what Lovie Smith's idea of cornerback is. He has that length, he has that size, and Sauce, he does have a good he has that mentality. He has it, he said, I want to be the top pick in the draft. And so I think as far as a franchise player goes, he would be a perfect fit. What would y'all think about Sauce Gardner at 3?
Yeah, so I think it's hard for me to like say, oh, I want to draft a cornerback at pick 3. I know we just talked about positional value, but just for another reference point, the Jaguars drafted Jalen Ramsey at 5, and I'd say that Jalen Ramsey has been one of the better, cornerback draft prospects that have panned out. Obviously, the Lions drafted Akuda. He hasn't necessarily played out because they did draft him pretty early as well. So I really like Sauce Gardner. I like the attitude that he has. I think that he would be a true star for the Texans and for any team that he lands with. He doesn't go to the Texans. I could see him being drafted by the Jets, one of those teams that are also in need of a corner. Sauce would definitely be like the Texans, lockdown corner for the future. That'd be a really exciting thing. I just find it really hard for us to pass up on a player like, Kyle Hamilton or Kayvon Thibodeaux. But Anish is absolutely right. The signs do point to either, a guy like Kayvon Thibodeaux or Sauce Gardner to be the pick. We've showed a lot of interest in those two guys. Love we talked to Sauce. Took him out to dinner after his pro day at Cincinnati. Sauce already, met with the Texans in the facility and all of that. So, yeah, I think that it's possible. I wouldn't mind it because personally just love the Sauce Gardner, the player. It has nothing to do, with anything other than that. So I would love the pick. A little concerned about, what else we're going to do in the draft. I just think that it's hard to pass up on other players. But yeah, Sauce Gardner, fantastic player, and I wouldn't mind the pick at all.
Definitely. And John did have to drop out, but John, be sure to go ahead and follow John on Twitter at John H. Crumpler. And he also writes for the Texans Wire, always putting out great content. He's been putting out articles about like draft identity and really great content. So feel free to check him out. He always provides great stuff for the Texans. And so, yeah, Sauce Gardner, I think it's like a fan favorite. I think a lot of Texans fans definitely wouldn't mind him at pick number 3, and he definitely be available at pick number 3. There isn't any questions about that, hopefully, unless the Jags do something crazy. But as far as John's argument about O-line, I definitely think, well, first of all, I wouldn't be super disappointed on who we draft at 3, just because we do need so much talent and like basically all over the roster. So I definitely wouldn't be super disappointed because we need like talented guys on the team, but just like these are just all preferences. So I just want to put that out there. But as far as like O-line goes, I definitely think that if we were to draft Ekwonu at 3, I would actually love it. One of my reasons for drafting Ekem would be he could definitely play guard. He's played over 200 snaps as guard, and will be a beast in the run game. He solves 2 of our problems at least. It would be helping improve our run game. We were dead last in rushing, and this team wants to run. And kind of open things up for Davis Mills as a result of that. So you help the run game immensely. You have 3 super talented guys on the roster. Titus, you have Ekem, left guard possibly, and Tunsil. So you already have 3 out of the 5 positions locked up on your O-line. The inside O-line I see as a huge weakness. And then you also protect Davis Mills. And so that's why I see like it isn't a huge deal to me if we draft Ekem. Evan Neal is probably a harder sell, but I would probably come around it if it did happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The biggest thing to me is that is kind of what the team wants to do. The running the ball is going to be the identity of this football team. Hopefully, they want to be a physical team. Obviously, defense wants to be physical. But yeah, Ikem Ekwonu, if you pick him at 3, it kind of still gives me a couple question marks. Personally, I'm on the train of I want Titus at Tunsil at left tackle and Titus at right tackle. I don't want to move Titus to right guard or left guard because they think Ekem is the better tackle. And Nick Cassera has talked about it before, where he just wants to put the 5 best guys on the field. So that word versatility that we heard of Bill O'Brien in that past Texans era, you're going to hear it here because that's what the Patriots did too. They just put the best guys on the field. You see a lot of Patriots offensive linemen in like the past in the Tom Brady era, they all played multiple positions. They were able to move around, so they always had a good O line, and they were able to be productive on offense. They never just struggled to move the ball or they had a down year because their offensive line was bad. They made the moves they had to do. They moved the players around and just kept producing. So Ekem would provide versatility for the Texans, but it's still a question mark to me. Now, obviously, he gives you a little bit of time to decide what you're going to do with Titus and his rookie contract. Are you going to extend him? What position is he going to play? So obviously, that gives you another year to do that. And then Ekem, the player, he's fantastic. He's very, very physical. He's a fantastic run blocker. He's got good feet, good hands. Obviously, he's a lot lighter than Evan Neal, which does matter. He's 310 pounds. Evan Neal has gone down to about 355 pounds. So obviously, he's a little bit quicker. Definitely has those better feet. He's decent in pass pro. And I think that he's the better all-around player. So if you were to take an offensive lineman at 3, Ekem would definitely be the player that I would take. And just like I said about Sauce Gardner, this would not be a pick that I would be upset about because whatever happens, he's going to be a solid player, a franchise player for whatever team he's drafted on for the next 10 years. That is something the Texans don't even have on their roster right now. We hope that pans out with guys like Mills and Nico and Brevin and Roy Lopez and those rookies that we drafted. We really hope that's what happens. But I think that, like John said earlier, we want a sure thing, someone we know that will be able to produce for us so that we can just keep getting better on a year-by-year basis. So Ikem Ekwonu would be a really, really good pick, and we just kind of set the tone for what the Texans want to do.
Yeah, and also another point I just thought of is just say like Titus or Tunsil do go down, unfortunately, to an injury, which they have in the past. Then you can just slide Ekem there, and you'll always have really, really solid tackles. You won't really have to worry about that. So that's like another thing to consider. And like some people are saying, oh, don't draft a guard so high. If you look at the 2018 draft, Quentin Nelson was drafted 6th, and if you were to do a redraft, you'd probably go 3 or 4 with like Josh Allen and then Lamar at 1 and 2 possibly, and then maybe Jair Alexander or Quentin Nelson battling for that 3rd spot. But I mean, that's like basically like he ended up being like the 3rd best player in that 1st round. So I definitely think like whether or not we should like a guard at 3 is too high. I don't think it's too crazy. Honestly, I personally think O-line is a premium position that you should invest in. Some of the best teams in the league have a good O-line, and the teams that didn't, they're trying to invest in O-line. So why like try to buy your O-line where you can develop them and have like young talent on good contracts? So that's just like another reason for why I would want Ekem. I mean, there's some good talent like in the late 1st round. So if we do end up trading down, then I'd be fine with that. But I think Ekem with that versatility is just something it's hard to pass up.
Exactly. I think that he just has so many skill sets. Like I said, such an all-around player, versatility. I mean, he has the potential to be the next Quentin Nelson. That's something I've heard a lot of guys talk about. If he were to play guard, he could do that. And even if he's a tackle, he's still going to be a fantastic player. I don't think that there's a really low floor for Ekem. I think that he just brings a lot to the table, and I really don't have any negatives to even say about him. So yeah, really, really solid player.
And as far as like whether or not the Texans do trade down from 3, like John said, like it's going to be hard, especially with a weak quarterback class. Drew, what do you think about like us possibly trading down, and like which team would you think would trade up if they would?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams, and it could be different situations. There could be one player that's higher on the board than others. So, like for example, the Giants have pick 5 and 7. If they wanted to move up to 3, there's probably something they could do. And then like the Eagles and the Saints, they have multiple 1st round picks. Maybe there's someone that they want there. And then you have the teams that are in quarterback needy. I know we were just talking about how we think that, well, it's settled down a little bit and the quarterbacks are falling into their spots. But, what if one of the teams gets tipped off that the Panthers might take the Falcons guy and the Falcons trade up? Or, the Panthers think that another team might trade it up, so they just give the Texans an even bigger offer. Trading up this year could be really, really interesting because you could either be, getting something from the Giants, Saints, or Eagles, or you could be getting a ton of picks because, the Panthers, maybe the Washington football team, the Falcons, or the Steelers all think that the franchise quarterback is there, and they want that guy so badly that they might even get into a bidding war. But if they're not getting like the right offer, there's no reason to really trade back because you're still gonna have pick 13 too. So that just right there, you get the third best player in the draft, or maybe the best player in the draft at pick 3, which I think the Texans have the opportunity to get. And then you still have pick 13, which you can also trade back from that, or you can just take another really good player. So having 2 first-round picks this year is fantastic and puts us in a great position. But also, if we get the opportunity to trade back from 3 to 6, 8, 12, other spots like that, those are really good spots to be in, especially if we get a ton of value with that trade.
Yeah, what I'm really intrigued by is New Orleans. They currently have pick 16 and pick 19. We already have established like trade talks with them, traded Roby with them. We're talking with them about Deshaun Watson. Daniel Jeremiah brought up a good point about they had already had a trade worked out with Houston for Watson. Maybe Houston wants some of the players from that proposal and picks to move out of the 3rd pick. And I definitely would consider moving 3 for possibly 16 and 19. And there could be a good possibility because it would allow the Saints to jump their division rivals in Carolina and Atlanta if they were looking at, say, Malik Willis, or like one of the quarterbacks in the draft class, because that would be the only reason why I would see them like trading with us. But that is definitely a very cool possibility. But Drew, yeah, any other prospects you wanted to talk about at pick number 3?
At pick number 3, obviously, I talked a little bit about Evan Neal. I think that he's gone to a really good weight. He used to be like 375. He looks really, really athletic right now. So his run blocking potential is obviously up there. Sometimes he had trouble getting that, it's in the gap, filling the gaps quickly to where the pass rushers were going. And then you have to obviously be prepared for the Texans possibly reach. They could draft Derek Stingley, Jordan Davis, one of those guys, and possibly Trayvon Walker too. So yeah, Derek Stingley, really, really talented cornerback from LSU. The Texans are going to be meeting with him, or by the time you've watched this video, they have already met with him. He's a very, very talented guy. He was a consensus All-American in 2019. He had high odds to be the Heisman Award winner 2020, but he got injured. He was going to play some receiver this year, but he decided to opt out and prepare for the draft instead. So athleticism is off the charts. Cornerback traits are off the charts. He can play man. He's a good tackler. He has some potential to play zone with his athleticism. And then Jordan Davis, definitely a unicorn prospect. He's 6'6", 341 pounds. I think he has a really good 40-yard dash too. Really impressed by that. He could play the 3-tech and the 1-tech. Playing the 3-tech at his size and the way he does it is so, so good. And that is just insane that he's able to do it. He's got really good athleticism, lateral agility, very, very smart player. Can get in those gaps, can also rush the passer. Insane power in his hands. Yeah, a really good all-around player. He's going to be a great player in the NFL. Not to say the Texans will draft him, but those are just players to look out for. And, while I'm listing these players off, I really can't be too upset with really any of them. Some of them, we could be reaching on someone. We don't know who we're going to draft, but we're getting a really talented player regardless of what happens. And I really, really am excited to see who we take.
Yeah, I think one possibility, this is like not necessarily about pick 3, but like I feel like since we have I think 14 picks in this draft, I definitely think we end up selecting less than that because I don't think the Texans are going to bring in 14 rookies. I think they're going
No,
to.
we got 11. I think.
Sorry, 11. Okay.
Yeah, 11.
Okay, I thought that was for next year. Okay. Yeah. So sorry about that. So, but even then, 11 is still even a lot, I guess. So maybe I think Nick Sir has done in the past. Last year, he traded up to round 3, trading I believe 2 fourths and a fifth or something like that to get Nico Collins. So that was our version of a first round last year in round 3. So I'm thinking my hot take or prediction is that Nick Caserio tries to trade up to the late first round to maybe snag a guy who's been falling on his board or something like that. I think Nick Caserio would want to have 3 first round picks. I think that would be absolutely insane. Whether or not he does, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what Nick Caserio is thinking right now? But yeah, I think that would be something really cool if it were to happen.
Yeah, I mean, for example, the Texans had 3 6-round picks last year, and they only ended up using one, and one was for Roy Lopez. So that's just another example of how Nick Caserio is able to just find talent, even if it's in the 6th round of the NFL draft. So I put all my trust in Nick Caserio right now because he hasn't really done anything other than some sketchy trades, but they were still, low risk, 5th round picks, pick swaps, high reward. He just wanted to add talent to the roster. So I definitely trust him. And even if we pick a no-name guy in the 2nd or 3rd round, I still believe that player will turn out to be something because he's definitely showed that he can find talent anywhere, like at any point of usage, just to find players. So I put my trust in Nick Caserio.
Yeah, we have all like fans should know like we should learn our mistake from booing JJ Watt. So on draft day. So if it ends up like not working out or like not being up to our expectations, we would just have to wait and see how it ends up going. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this podcast. Hope you all enjoyed, got some new insights. We thank John for his time. And yeah, thank y'all for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Peace.